Welcome back to Maker's Journey Workshop. I'm Benjamin Davies, and today, so we're back in the shop today. Started our 30 for 30 challenge. This is day 5 when I'm recording this video, and I'm noticing something that's really going to kick my tail if I don't address it now. Let me show you. So here's our shop from the back to the front. That's our office right there on the right. Got storage over there on the left for all our drops and stuff. We cut our sheet metal in 5x5 sheets. That way we can handle it in the shop. Just makes it easier. And my shop is just, it's getting cluttered. It's getting dirty. It's getting out of sorts. All the flat spaces have things on them. Turn, baby. The welding table is just cluttered with stuff, and even my work area is getting a little cluttered. Now, you'll notice the work area, there's nothing in that space. All my tongs usually go back to the tong table, but that table's got a couple pairs on it now from where we finished the other day, and it's disorganized. Our press table even has some things on it over there. Our grinding and prep table over here, polish and finish work over here, it's got stuff all over it. So today I'm gonna do a shop clean, and that may seem really silly, but I'm gonna drop some sage pearls of wisdom that have helped me along the way, and I hope they help you. This is one of the things I never did years ago. I'd sit stuff off to the side, and it's with that I'll get it mentality, I'll get to it mentality. And I'd sit stuff off to the side for so long that my skill would surpass those pieces that I was going to work on later. And so eventually I ended up scrapping them anyways. Cleaning to me kind of seems silly. It doesn't really make any sense. Like, how's it going to help me? I've got work that needs to be done. Why am I going to stop and take the time to clean my shop? Let's just push it out of the way, and then I'll get to it tomorrow, eventually. I did it that way for years until I started realizing just how much better I felt once I organized my shop. Even if you've got a tight space, find some homes for things. Have some tough conversations with yourself. Do I need this? Is it really important? Is it helping me? A lot of times I would stick overflow outside, and then once it became rusted a little bit, I realized if it was that important, I wouldn't have let it rust and I wouldn't let it sit outside. I've had 3 jobs in my entire life. First one, I worked as a stonemason, laying rock all summer. We built these beautiful water gardens. We built some really beautiful things, and it was a fun experience for me in high school. I got to travel all over West North Carolina. In the summer, sometimes we'd even do some work in Atlanta, which is my boss's hometown. One of the biggest takeaways from that job was clean as you go. And whilst I don't apply that everywhere in my shop, my forge area, I do apply this in for the most part. The table gets a little messy sometimes. But whenever I'm done with a set of tongs, they go right back on the tong rack, even if I'm using them for the next job. When I'd start out, I'd leave things on the table, light the tongs, and say, I'll use these in 5 minutes. I'll use these in 5 minutes. And it never happened that way. So I've got to where my forge area actually stays pretty clean. So if nothing else, I'm really glad that I applied this train of thought there. My second job, which I started my senior year in high school, was working at a grocery warehouse. I'd work part-time picking bananas on the weekends. I graduated college in 2008, 2009, and right in the middle of the biggest boom of our economy. And I went full-time at that warehouse. And my wife and I just started our family, and within that warehouse, you could pick groceries full-time, and you got paid by what you did. And I got paid a whopping 8 cents a case. And it allowed me to work a schedule where I could work about 4 days a week, 4 10-hour shifts, but allowed me to make enough money to pay the bills so my wife could stay at home with our children. And the big thing I didn't even realize at the time was the intrinsic value I would receive from this job that I wasn't enjoying. What I didn't realize, there I go again. What I didn't realize at the time is both of those jobs set me up really nicely for the things that I do in the shop today. Keeping my spot clean in the forge allows me to move efficiently and quickly throughout the forge and not waste any time looking for any of those tools that I need. It's a huge contributor that helps me to produce quality and quantity at the same time, as we produce a lot of production work here in the shop. Picking groceries, to be able to pick that fast without having to stop and wrap, that was a big feather in your cap to be able to stack up pallet that was about 7 to 7.5 feet tall without having to wrap it. As you're riding 2 pallets at a time on a jack that goes about 5 to 7 miles an hour, I'm guessing, at top speed without having to stop and wrap it and it falling off. It means you had to get really quick at being efficient and creating a quality stack. Sounds really silly to say out loud, but I didn't realize the intrinsic value that would provide to this job. Like I said, we do a lot of production work in the forge. Production, doing groceries for years, helped me to understand how to produce quality quickly, because if my stacks weren't good when I was picking groceries, then I couldn't move quickly. So those stacks had to be quality. And that really translates to my work nowadays and how I think about things. We talk about in some of our previous videos how even to this day that my anvil is not anchored down. And this is on purpose, because I like to move around my forge and my anvil and my vise, and that way I can streamline whatever setup I'm doing that day, because I want to minimize the steps that I take in between each thing. And so whenever I'm building a production piece, I've talked about this some in our comments with some of our subscribers, I try to think of the most efficient way to do it. I won't forge a piece from start to finish. If I'm making 10 of something, let's say it's our toilet paper holders that we did in our previous video right here. I will do all 10 leaves first, and then I will do the bends. I'll do all 10 bends first, and then I'll do all 10 bob punches first. That's the part for the screw holes. And then I will do all 10 bends where I'm bending around to hold the toilet paper. I'll do all that together. And it has a lot of great value that transfers into my work. That value mainly being that I'm going to produce more consistent results. My leaves are all going to look the same. My curves are all going to look the same. Whereas if I was working 10 pieces start to finish, they'd all look a little bit different. That took me years to learn, and it's such a silly thing. And I was able to learn it from approaching and attacking larger quantities of work as our business grew. So what's a clean shop have to do with any of this? As a creative, and to me that just means someone who's constantly thinking of ideas, ways to fix things, ways to grow our business, ways to create new pieces, I'm constantly coming up with new ideas and racking my brain against it. But when our shop gets inundated with clutter, our brain can't help but consume that information as we walk in. So every time I walk past one of these tables, instead of being deep in my creative thought, I think, oh man, I need to clean that table. I need to make time to clean that table. I'll get to it. I've got this to do. I've got that to do. And I'm bad about putting it off. I'm so much better than I was years ago. Years ago, I would just let it pile and pile and pile, and I would do it once a year maybe. Now we've got to where we do it about once or twice a quarter. And every time, I feel so much better. At the time that I start the clean, like right now, in the middle of our 30 for 30 challenge, when I should be recording all kinds of other content around videos and editing, all that stuff, it doesn't feel like it's the right thing I should be doing with my time. I feel like I should be working, and that's good to have that work ethic and that mind thought. But every time I clean the shop, it empowers me. I don't know what it is. I can't put my hand on the psychology. I'm sure there's a lot of it around, but it frees that clutter from my brain. I'm able to focus on my thoughts and walk in and feel like I can dominate the day when I see a shop that's clean and ready to go. It's hard to do sometimes. You get busy with work and you try to make sure you stack so much work that you don't have anything in between. That's part of growing a business. It's frustrating, it's scary, it's definitely a juggling act that we're constantly figuring out as you try to grow. These little blue things are lifesaver. I bought them off of Amazon. It's just a way to keep organized a little bit better. But they make a pretty big difference in these drawers for me. And now we've got two spaces clean, and I can already tell a huge difference in the shop. Just turning around to set up this shot. I don't know what it is. I don't understand the psychology behind it. But I feel better and clearer, and like I'm going to have a more clear line of sight and a path forward. Trust me, it makes a big difference. Another thing that happens is you stack those things up on your table as reminders of things you need to finish. To me, it's a conversation that I'm having with myself. Says, hey, here's that thing you didn't get done. Here's that other thing you didn't get done. Are you going to finish me? It's like it's talking to you. Sounds wackadoodle maybe to some, but to me, that's how I'm processing it. That's how my brain processes it. And it really clutters up that workspace and that traffic flow in there so I can focus on the things that are most important, that are going to allow me to perform and really focus on what matters with 100% of my output that I have up there. Did I say I played college football for a few years? I got to be careful with what I got. All right, this one's been Jason's table for the past 2 years. This is where he does a lot of our grinding for us, and he does a lot of our polishing and everything like that. And for the past 2 years, anytime Jason would start his week off, he would come into a cluttered mess on his table because I use it as an overflow table to keep my area clean. Kind of a running joke we've had. We've even made some funny videos about it. But he was a pretty good sport, and he would always get it cleaned up for me. What a huge help and a tremendous blessing it's been to have had Jason in the shop the past couple of years. He's been a huge helper for me, which brings us to our next hack. If you can hire someone or something to do the work that frees you up to be more impactful and focus on the work that only you can do, that's a huge hack for your business and time saver overall. Things like cutting, grinding, deburring, polishing, things that you can train somebody else to do that might not require the same attention and level of detail and experience skill set that it takes to do the forging that you're doing. So Jason's the someone. What's the something? This is the something. This was probably one of the biggest hacks and leap forward in my business as a new smith. I keep little 5-gallon buckets around the shop too, just like this, that I can throw my scrap drops in. And that way I'm not having to go back and forth, because I usually keep my larger 55-gallon, or I even have some 30-gallon scrap bins, some scrap barrels that I keep my scrap in. And that way I'm not having to walk all the way outside to the back of the shop. Cuts down on steps, cuts down on time. And then when they get full, just take them and dump them. So you're dumping, I don't know, 50, 100, maybe more pieces at a time, instead of making that trip 50 to 100 times. That makes a difference in your time. I love buckets, but they're just as bad as flat spaces sometimes. And these are, I'll take out some wheels and put them on the table whenever I'm working on grinding and polishing. That way I've got access to all those things at one time. But the bad thing is they kind of stack up after a while. And I'll even hold on to some of the dull ones, because usually I'm using the edge of these wheels, these flat discs, and they've got a lot of life left in the middle. Sometimes it's just better to let it go. And that can be pretty hard. See you guys. We kept one. This one looked really good. I thought it was new when I first saw it, so it's obviously not, but we kept it, okay? Just don't judge me. Okay. The way we started years ago, I had like one flat disc at a time and one cut brush. If I had another one sitting on deck, I felt pretty big time. I would even keep it in the packaging and hang it out in the shop. So if that's you still today, use that thing until there's nothing left. But if you got to a point where you're just collecting consumables and you've got all kinds of belts sitting on the wall, you don't see those belts. Get rid of them. Get rid of the clutter. It's going to do you more good than it will bad. I'm not really using that guy right now, and so it's just sitting around the shop, and it's something I have to move several times. If you stop and think about it for a second, if you have something in your shop that's like that you're moving constantly 1 or 2 times a day, which may seem small, but if you do that for weeks on end, how long would it have taken to just put up in storage? We've got a few van bodies outside, then I can go stick this guy in, and it'll be safe and out of the way and clear up some space for me to think. Here's some guys. These are fire pits of ours, and these are the plancha tops. They didn't turn out how I like. There's a movie I really like. It's called Chef. And there's a scene in that movie where he's talking to his son. He says, if you really like this thing, you really love this thing, because he really loves what he's doing, and the message is, then no matter if it's free and you're giving it away or you're selling it, you only ever put your best self out there. So these guys will never make it outside of my shop. But I will harvest them and see if I can't get a few burger presses out of them, because they're the same thickness of what we use for burger presses. Most of these decisions we're making here today, that may seem kind of silly because you don't want to move it, because you think it's going to be out of sight, so it's going to be out of mind, and you won't remember to make the stand for that anvil because you have a place for it. It's not a permanent decision. It's just freeing up the clutter so you can focus. Trust me, we get into this video, it makes a huge difference. It's taking me forever to do this right now because we're trying to film and make creative content for you while we do it, and make this content as exciting as a shop cleanup can be. But as I'm doing it, I'm getting filled with all these reminders that I've learned over the past 15 years that I hope help you in your shop. I always keep a ratty old welding glove at the grinding table, by the way, because I don't use wrenches for my angle grinders. I usually twist them off by hand, but if it's a knotted wire wheel, I'll grab it with the leather glove, put that over top, and twist it off. So, nope, just more clutter. I'm going to go ahead and stick it in my truck and take it home. I used to love winter as a kid. It was one of my favorite holidays.
holidays. It was one of my favorite days whenever we had a snow day at school, growing up in the mountains of western North Carolina. But here in Shelby, North Carolina, our winters usually like days are today in the spring. Here, let me turn the volume. Let me adjust the volume for you for a second. At 38, I do not like rainy days. They are not my favorite days. If I even hesitate or sit around the house for just a minute, I have the hardest time getting out of the house or going to do what I need to do in the shop the rest of the day. So what I've learned to do is on those days that I don't want to do anything, and I do have that choice, that I go make myself do the thing I don't want to do. There's so much intrinsic value in that. Getting outside and getting to work and making yourself work on those days you don't want to work. And that's a huge hack for me. Just start small. This is one of those days I talk about. This is the perfect time where I'm talking about energy, whether to attack the big thing or take the small thing first. You're struggling because it's raining outside. Maybe you suffer from depression or whatever. Man, just get out there, get started, start in a corner and work your way out. Start small, stack some little victories. I can almost guarantee pretty soon you'll feel pretty good and ready to conquer the rest of the day and glad you went to work. It does something up here that builds you up. Trust me. As I've started this, it's raining harder. Listen to it now. Oh, coffee helps.
Well, this table's just about clean.
1, 2, 3. 3 workspaces cleaned up. And we started with some of the fairly easier workspaces cleaned up, and we're building our way up and stacking victories as we go. Sounds really silly, but it's almost like you're building steam, which is just thrice as nice. Just how loud it is. The fact that I'm smiling, I don't want to be here when it's raining, tells me I'm getting some victories and I'm getting some things done. I've got only 26 more YouTubes to shoot for this month, and I feel like I should be doing 3 of them right now. But I know that I want to be able to be so much more focused and efficient moving forward once we clean this shop. All right, I'm stretching on this table. All right, I'm putting these things up and I'm done. I use a lot of 3/16 and 1/4" bits to drill holes for some of the things that we sell in our shop to mount them for. I found a style of bit that I like the most. It's cobalt. That's what works best for me. It's what I really like. Once you find one that you like, instead of buying those kits like we did so long ago, and we still do every now and again because they're just handy to have, buy in bulk some of these guys. And that way you've always got them when you snap a bit. I can't tell you how many jobs, especially starting out, and even here recently, where we'll get just into the groove of things when it gets really busy in the shop and we don't have the drill bits we need. You have to stop your day, run to town, find the bit, or buy the whole set of bits just so you can get the one bit because it's a better deal. Soon as you can afford to buy extra consumables, especially these low threshold consumables in your shop, buy them. Spend the money. It's worth it for the amount of time it's going to give you back. All right, 4th table clean. It's nice to have table space in the shop, but if you don't really stay on top of it, it can be more unhelpful than helpful. So make sure you're staying on top of it. All right, so here's another one you might have noticed in the video today that I've got one of my earbuds in here. I did that so I could listen to YouTube podcast or whatever while I was recording this. Coincidentally, unfortunately though, I became so focused on what kind of little tips and tricks I could share that I'm not listening to anything today. Having earbuds in for me is a huge hack in the shop. I don't know why, but if I'm listening to all the other noises of the world and walking around without some white noise, whether it be music or books or something in my ear, I have the most difficult time focusing. For me, it's a huge hack. And some of you might ask, well, how do you listen to podcasts or books and work at the same time? Well, when I'm doing production work, I've done so much of it, And I do it in such stages that I can almost check out a little bit without, I don't have to be as hyper-focused as if I'm laying out tight, specific dimensions for a gate or a rail. When I listen to a gate or rail, it has to be music because I can't tell you a thing that was just read to me. But when I'm in the forge doing my thing, batching out roasting sticks, batching out production work, I'm able to listen to books and podcasts and absorb that information while I work. I love this. It feels like a huge hack to me because I'm able to double duty. I've only got into doing that the past 2 or 3 years where I listen to books and podcasts on tape, and it cuts down my time deficit. I'm a terrible reader. I'll sit down and I'll read a book, and the pages and the words just float off the page to me. I'll read 20 pages, and at the end of the 20 pages, I can tell you my entire thought process, and it has nothing to do with the book. But I can sit down and listen to a 500 to 600 page book in about 3 to 5 hours, depending on the speed in which I read it. And some books I like to listen to over and over again. It's right at 11 o'clock on Monday morning. I planned to come in here, knock out this shop clean, and shoot 2 or 3 other videos. But I've had so many good ideas that have helped me along the way pop up as we were cleaning this morning that I want to make sure that we shared that. And so I'm not at all discouraged by that. I've learned that you don't really control time, but you can plan to execute the things that you want to do within those times. Meaning, set a time, and from this time to that time, I'm going to do this. If I don't finish, that's okay. I want to make time to come back to it. Something I heard pretty recent that's been really helpful for me is during the creative process, especially like if you're designing, you're working on something, once those creative juices stop flowing, put the pen down, walk away. Because whatever you create after that point, it's not going to be nearly as creative. It's not going to live up to the potential that you had. It's okay to walk away. That's something I wrestle with still on a daily basis because we do so much production work, and I love being able to finish work. I love coming in here and starting the day saying I'm going to knock out 50 fire pokers and then walking away at the end of the day having 50 fire pokers that are ready to go in the tumbler the next day. As you start to tackle bigger projects, it doesn't work that way. You may spend days on end just grinding and polishing, and it's really frustrating. The most important but the most challenging time about making a piece or in any process that I'm discovering is the middle part, because it doesn't look like much in between. You don't know if it's going to turn out right. And it's easy to lose faith. Put your head down, plow through those days, and get to the end. Because at the end, when we finish projects, I instantly forget about all the frustrations and the challenges and the things I had to figure out to make them look the way that, to pluck them out of my brain and bring them into reality and make them look the way that I wanted to look in a way that my client would enjoy. And I quickly think to myself, hey, I can't wait till the next one. Even though the weeks leading up to that sometimes were just painstaking and felt like they were never going to end. It's the same way with your journey right now. If you're trying to forge, if you're trying to make it as a blacksmith or whatever kind of craft you're in, maybe you're here at this channel because you like what we talk about, starting with minimal tools and figuring it out. Man, stick your head down. If yesterday sucked, get up and do it again tomorrow. If yesterday was great, get up and do it again tomorrow. It doesn't matter what you did yesterday. It doesn't matter. Each day's new, and you need to show up and deliver each day. Put your head down, keep working, keep moving forward. Fail, 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 do it again. Fail, 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 do it again. Fail, 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 succeed. Don't rest too long in that succeed area. Do it again. Anytime I have one of these ideas to record a video where we're doing a lot of talking and trying to provide as much information as possible that necessarily isn't on the technique or forging, I always think, wow, this will be nice. I can go in, I can record this first thing in the morning. I've been at this for 4 hours now. And maybe I'm just slow. Maybe I'm unorganized. Maybe I'm just new to this and I'm just figuring it all out. But I hope thus far it's provided you some value. If so, smash that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. Almost there, home stretch. Ha ha ha. My iPod. That's right. We're using those phone caddies in the shop. I've also been able to build some relationships with people that were way further ahead in business than I was starting out, especially a woodworker friend of mine who I've milled many a tables on. And he's helped me out and dropped things that he had to do on a Friday morning just to help me mill a tabletop to put on one of my bases that I made for a show. So in return, I always try to make sure that I repay that favor. I'll never feel like I can repay that enough. And it's usually a pretty good relationship where we help each other out and no money's ever exchanged. I encourage you to have those relationships as well, because they're a whole lot more beneficial and valuable than any relationship you'll ever establish based on money. Sure, I'm to the point now where he might be able to use me for some things and on some business transactions, and we can have those conversations comfortably. And equally so, if I needed to use his wood shop, I would have no problem reaching out to him and say, "Hey, buddy, I need 20 of these. Tell me what they cost. Give me a price. And let's make it happen." And that's okay too. Having the conversations and establishing those boundaries are really important. Shh, pay no attention to the red hose. Relax. Oh my gosh. That table feels so much better already. Just not having that thing 2 feet tall towering over the rest of the table. It already feels so much more open. Yep, so we got some clouds back here as you can see, but we also got some bright sunny sky trying to peek its head over the trees back there, and that's exciting. I just told you your day would get brighter if you went and did things, and there's the proof in the pudding. I can't make this stuff up. 11:36, time's dwindling down. Let's get this table clean. All right, this one probably won't be completely clean, but I'm gonna get it tidied up and staged and organized somewhat because I still need a flat space to stick some things. $11.40, will we make it? Mystery steel. All right, so in our last video, in one of our previous videos here recently, which one was it? Oh, it's the Infinity Hardy Tool one. I talk about starting with mild steel. We talk about mild steel in a lot of our videos because it's cheap, it's accessible, and you know exactly what it is, versus mystery steel at the scrapyard. And what I mean by mystery steel is you don't know exactly where that steel's came from. There is a universal sheet, and I got one. I received one as I started out, and it'll tell you what most of these things are made of. But I highly doubt that Hyundai or Geo uses the same type of metal for their coil springs that Ferrari and Lamborghini does. You probably won't find a Lamborghini or Ferrari part of the scrapyard, I know. But what I'm saying is, it's kind of a reference sheet. It is not an absolute guide. And besides, once you torch that thing off, you don't know the quality of the metal. You don't know the life of it. You can do some testing on it. You can anneal it. You can soft it. You can do some spark testing on it, for sure, which all take time. I'm really protective of my time, and I don't like to give any of it away on something I don't think is important. So we talk about the mild steel. Plus, I forged some of those things as a beginner. And I would get some nasty films on the outside, some white and green chalky stuff that would burn off, and I guarantee that stuff's not healthy to breathe. And once I heard a smith that was way more advanced than I was, and still is, talk about how he doesn't mess with scrapyard steel because you don't know what else is in there. Could be some lead, could be some other things you don't need to be breathing in the shop. I just get on the phone and I order it from Cane's. That's the best way to go for me because I know exactly what I'm getting. It gets there and I go ahead and go straight to forging it. So, starting out, if I want to practice, I'm practicing on mild steel for these things all day long until I get better. For your chisels and your small punches and things like that, yeah, maybe use a piece of rebar because it's going to have a much finer point that's going to be easier to mushrooming or proning or denting. But I would just stay away from the scrapyard. That's me. Plus, if you're trying to look professional and trying to sell these things, even though you may not be full-time yet, maybe you're a knife maker. Do you really want to show up in person or online advertising your knife and saying, we made this thing from a 1987 Pontiac Fiero leaf spring? No, you don't. You want to have specific tool steel that you purchased. That's just my take on it. If yours is different and it works for you, great. Under my table, I put a lot of things under there that I don't get used on a daily basis, but every now and again, I wish I wouldn't have scrapped or I wish I wouldn't have thrown away, and I'll go digging under there. It takes a little bit of time, but it's just one of those things that once or twice a year, I'm really grateful I have. Every now and again, I will throw out something like, man, I've not used that in a year, and it's literally like the next day or two, oh man, I shouldn't have got rid of that. I shouldn't have scrapped it. I could have. You figure out a use. It's worth it just to move on sometimes, but for me, I have learned to hold on to a few of them, especially like jigs that are specific for jobs. Like here's some I've not used in a year or two. Here's some more. I just saved them because it took me time and effort to make those things, and maybe one day I need a scroll, something like that, or just the form off of that scroll.
And so I hold on to them and I stick them under here to use later. You don't see that floating around on everybody's table, do you? It's left, and we're still pretty messy. And somebody's here. Oh, the guy's here to clean out my tank. Clean the area where you're going to stick stuff where it's going to stay, and that way you don't have to go back and move it and clean it again. Parts rack out back. I'm almost there. All right, it's 12:01. I didn't make it, which is a little disheartening. But I'm gonna go ahead and put this camera up so I quit talking into it because I keep on coming up with ideas that I really want to share, and this is gonna take me forever to edit at this point. And I'm gonna go ahead and postpone my lunch, and so I can go ahead and finish this because I know I'll feel a lot better. So I'm gonna clean up that table. I'm gonna clean up this spot right here. I actually made that specifically just so I could take pictures quickly whenever we made something new in the forge. And since it's a flat space, it ends up being a catch-all for us quite often. So I'm gonna tidy that up today and try to keep it clean for as long as possible. All right, here's another one I get asked often. Why do you wear gloves? No reason at all. I didn't even think about it as we were cleaning today, and then I came across these guys. I buy these at the big box store for like, I don't know, 10 or 15 bucks for a pack of 10 or 20. And I'll get about 3 to 4 days out of them sometimes. Starting out as a beginning blacksmith, I love showing up somewhere and someone saying, hey, what's that on your hands? You're just so proud to be doing something cool and unique that you can't wait to tell somebody. Now at 38 years old, it's much different. Most of the time when somebody asks what I do, I just tell them I'm a metal worker, because going through the same old conversation of, so you shoot horses? You seen that show Forged on Fire? You know, the ones where they make the really cool blades? You make swords? Like big long swords? Is that what you do? Oh, you mean welder, don't you? You mean welder, yeah. A few thousand times later, that conversation gets a wee bit old. So I go with metalworker nowadays. It's easier, because telling somebody you're a blacksmith in 2025 and explaining what you do, they're like, oh, good for you. That must be nice. But seriously though, beforehand, as we got into this full time in 2017, 2018, and I'd work through the winters outside, I'd get terrible cracks right here in the webbing of my hand and right at the tips of my fingers. And if you've ever cracked that skin, it's terrible to heal because you're always expanding and contracting it. Since then, I get a little bit of dry scaling and some peeling, but not near as bad as it used to be. And so I try to protect my hands as much as possible. Got excited about recording this video today and didn't think to put on my gloves. That's why I wear gloves. But you don't look cool. You don't look like a real blacksmith. I don't care. I'm comfortable. It protects my hands. Why do you wear shorts in the shop? What are you doing? It gets pretty hot here in the forge. I don't spend most of my days welding. And the metal we usually beat, it's usually about a 1/2 inch and under. We're making a lot of fire pokers, a lot of production work, and it doesn't throw off too terrible a scale. So it's worth it for me to risk catching some scale every now and again that usually glances off 99% of the time to be comfortable. It gets atrociously hot here in Shelby in the middle of summer, and so it's just worth it to be comfortable for me to get a few burns. What happens if that scale slips down your boot? You know, it has happened before. It usually smolders on my sock and goes out. Every now and again, it'll smolder through and burn. And I'll take my boot out and stomp it out real quick. Not a big deal. It's worth the trade-off for me. Try to learn as much as I can, as often as I can, and apply it and incorporate it as it works for me. I don't really get hung up as much on what the rest of the world's doing and what they think's the right way is the way that works best for me, that I can be safe and comfortable as I do it. So I hope some of these tips and tricks today have been helpful for you. But also, if they're not and they don't really work with your routine, don't apply them, and that's okay. Find a way that works best for you and move forward. Don't worry about what everybody else is saying. All right, y'all. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Thank y'all for being here.